Agent Romanoff. You miss me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Film Artsy, your #1 source for all things films and movies. My name is Eli, and today we decided to take a look at some of the best anti-heroes we have seen in the Marvel movie universe. Not the cinematic universe necessarily alone, but overall the entire scope of the comic book movies we've seen that involve Marvel characters. And we've seen some really great anti-heroes over the past couple of years, and a couple that are coming up that we're really excited about. And we decided to dedicate today's video to talking about the 10 best anti-heroes in Marvel movies. So let's kind of go ahead and get into this. We can kind of take a look at some of the movie properties that Fox owns first. Wolverine is one of the big anti-heroes that comes to mind just because of his character always constantly involving a moral compass somewhere around his character and what he should be doing, especially considering how he's been treated his life, and what is right and what is wrong is always put into question. Wolverine serves as a perfect example of an anti-hero, because to have an anti-hero character, there has to be some sort of conflict in doing what is right and wrong, and Wolverine really paved the way in the superhero universe just because he's been around for so long in shaping this sort of character, and kind of made it possible that we see more characters with this anti-hero trope in other Marvel movies. So Wolverine definitely earns a spot on this list. Going on to other Fox films, we can look at characters like Deadpool, who also definitely take a lot from the anti-hero side of things. This character might be a little more extreme, and he's kind of the merc with a mouth, and it's really funny, and it makes for a great comedy action movie, but at the same time, this character is literally, in a way, kind of a reflection of the same sort of moral compass we see with Wolverine. This character is definitely conflicted. We see it in both films in just different ways, especially in Deadpool 2. And it's really interesting when looking at Deadpool, say, compared to Wolverine, how these very similar characters that have very similar powers and very similar stories to tell branch very differently in how the movies are made and how they're perceived and how they are crafted. But Deadpool really is a great anti-hero in the Marvel adaptation movies. And if we want to stay along the lines of Deadpool, we can also even look at Cable, who, even though Deadpool is an anti-hero, Cable kind of comes in as an active anti-hero in Deadpool 2, which is interesting because Deadpool 2 being a sequel, we have Deadpool as almost the hero, quote unquote, because viewers have already kind of gotten past the anti-hero aspects of him from the first film, and we see Cable, who's introduced as a villain. He is a villain through and through at the beginning of the film, but as we start to explore his character and learn his backstory, and we kind of see that maybe there's some similarities that can be drawn upon, we start to realize that his character himself isn't actually that bad of a guy. He definitely also has this moral compass situation, but the whole point of him being an anti-hero is that at the end of the day, an anti-hero is mostly self-serving, and that's what we see from Cable throughout the main motive of Deadpool 2. Of course, characters can evolve and expand into other types of characters and be full-on heroes, and we see Cable kind of go through this, we see Deadpool go through this, we see Wolverine go through this, where the characters become something greater than an anti-hero. But Cable's a great example of an anti-hero who comes in as a villain. We get the time where they're kind of this ambiguous anti-hero, and then we see them finally turn into a full-fledged hero. Does anyone remember Silver Surfer at all from the Fantastic Four movies? And sure, there was a lot of controversy around whether these movies were good or not, but at the very least, they were an interesting showcase of an anti-hero character that we see in Silver Surfer. His motives, on the other hand, were kind of unknown for the most part, which made it really interesting, especially when we found out that he wasn't a bad guy, when you kind of, if you haven't read the comics, assume he's a bad guy through the whole movie until towards the end of the film. And then we can have the more blatant, in-your-face type of characters like Ghost Rider Nicolas Cage, who was a very interesting adaptation of a character that definitely is an anti-hero through and through, because he kind of just does his own thing, but at the same time, he also kind of does the right thing, and that's kind of that moral balance and compass that we're kind of talking about here, because Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider, whether you love the movie or not, it's very interesting to see this villainous kind of character, this character that really doesn't show any mercy, but also is kind of at the same time focused on doing the right thing, kind of like how he spared that one guy in the jail. We can even kind of apply this into the Sony Spider-Man movies, whichever generation of Spider-Man you like to see. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, we saw the introduction of Venom, and we also saw even Peter Parker kind of become an anti-hero in Spider-Man 3. Whether that movie was good or not, that's up to you to decide, but we see kind of this moral compass that's ambiguous, and we're really excited to see what's going to happen with this upcoming Venom movie, because it looks like it's going to take that theme of trying to find the right balance between right and wrong, or even having a self-conflict with another internal part, which is what we're looking at Venom, where we might not have a bad guy, but there's a second voice in the head, and that kind of reflects the humanity sense of things, where people in general are often put in a situation where they have conflicting ideas on what they should do, and they have to choose between right and wrong. And in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's been a lot of interesting anti-heroes we've seen. For the most part, the MCU, however, does more of like a character who comes of age and changes, which is a very interesting point of view as opposed to the ones that Fox and Sony have done. The MCU more focuses on having this transformation story of characters changing and becoming good guys, which is a really interesting character arc. We see that with the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and we also even see it with Winter Soldier, especially how he was also kind of having that self-conflict within himself, but we see the transformation that all along his character can be good. More recently, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, we saw the introduction of Ghost, who technically still is a villain by the end of the movie, but it looks like it could be setting up the stage for Ghost to possibly turn around and be someone who is good. Ghost's character had nothing inherently bad about her. She was just trying to pursue her own best interests in survival. And now that she's at least partially cured, it's going to be interesting to see how this character is going to go. Is this character going to have guilt for the things that she's done, or is there going to lead to a new type of villain? This is a really perfect active example of an anti-hero. We can also shift gears into longer characters we've had in the MCU, like Loki, who's been there since Thor way back in the day and played a huge role in Avengers, played a huge role in the next Thor movie and Ragnarok, and even a little role in Infinity War. And we see this character that's constantly causing problems and is literally just looking out for themselves and would have been a villain through and through, but we see little moments where this character comes through and does the right thing and stands up for the right thing, that we kind of see that this character is really more troubled than necessarily a straight up villain. Loki was a great villain in the first films, but it was really cool to see him kind of become a little more ambiguous, where you don't know what he's going to do. You know that he can cause trouble, but it doesn't mean he's always going to cause trouble, which was a really cool aspect of a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in all of the movies we've had, and kind of this recurring character. Especially in Ragnarok and Infinity War, we know he's up to no good, we know he plays these things, but especially in Infinity War, it was nice to see him kind of make this transformation and this reflection between Avengers, the first one from 2012, and Infinity War. And while maybe not as good of an example of an anti-hero, we have Rocket Raccoon, who deserves at least an honorable mention, because this character actively does things on his own accord. He steals stuff, he is a criminal, but at the same time, he saves the galaxy as a guardian of the galaxy, and he does fight for the greater good, but he also will go off and do his own thing, and these things might be self-fulfilling. So these are really interesting characters. It's really cool to get to look at these characters and what makes them tick. And sometimes the anti-heroes are the coolest characters in the series because they're more three-dimensional. And you can even look at certain examples of major heroes who don't necessarily always do the right thing. And maybe that's a topic for another video we can do down the road, because there's a lot of examples of Captain America, Iron Man, all these main characters who are just as conflicted as these anti-heroes. But that being said, that's all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button down below. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and we'll see you all next time with a brand new video.
Hey, it's Gigi Hadid. For more videos like this, click here.
Hi, I'm Cara Delevingne. Please don't forget to subscribe by clicking this button right here. Boop.
Thanks for watching.